Hi students, in this video I'll be going through the 2019 O-Level Additional Mathematics Paper 1 question 12. Right, so this is a question regarding a trigonometric graph. Okay, so let's read the question. So it's given that fx is equals to 2 sine 2x and gx is equals to 3 cosine x over 2 minus 1. Okay, so they want us to state the least and the greatest value of fx for part 1 and the least and greatest values of gx for part 2. Okay, so to state the least and greatest value, we usually look at two things. Okay, so the first thing that we usually look at is the vertical shift, or where is the center point of the graph. Okay, so if you look at fx, there's no number that is added or subtracted behind. It means that the vertical shift is 0, which means that the center point of the graph will actually be on the x-axis. Okay, so for this first graph, okay, this 2 sine 2x, okay, the center point will be on the x-axis, right? Okay, which means that later on when you draw the sine graph, okay, in the last part, it's going to center around the x-axis. Okay, so if the next thing to look at would be this number in front of the trigo function, which is the amplitude. So if the center point is at the x-axis and the amplitude is 2, right? It means that to get the least value, you will take 0, okay, the y value on the x-axis, minus 2, okay, to get the least value. So the least value will be negative 2. Then to get the greatest value, you will take the y value on the x-axis, which is 0. You add 2 to get the greatest value. Okay, so from here we can write least will be negative 2 and greatest would be 2, right? So how do we get the least? We take 0 minus the amplitude. Okay, we get the least value. To get the greatest, we take 0 plus 2, the amplitude, to get the greatest value. Right, so let's look at part 2. Now we go on to this graph gx, right? So gx now has a vertical shift, which is negative 1. Okay, that means later on when you draw the graph, right, it's going to center around negative 1. Okay, so negative 1 is here. Okay, so this cosine graph is going to center around negative 1. Right, the amplitude is now 3, so this is the amplitude. Okay, so to get the least value, you will take the vertical shift, negative 1, you will minus the amplitude, so you get negative 1 minus 3, you get negative 4. Okay, so the least value will be negative 1, okay, minus 3, you will get negative 4. Okay, so negative 4 here, this will be least value. Then to get the greatest value, okay, you will take negative 1 plus the amplitude now instead. Okay, so you will get 2. Okay, so that will be the highest point, the greatest value. So 2, right? Right, so this will be the answer for part 1 and 2. Okay, next thing, part 3, they want us to state the period of fx. So basically, period means after one complete wave, right? What is the time that has passed by, right? What is the time for the one complete wave? So for period, we look at the number in front of the x here. So if the number is 2, it means that from 0 to 360, you will see 2 complete waves. So meaning if this is a sine graph, you will see 1 complete wave, and then after that, the second complete wave. Okay, and here will be 0, and here will be 360. Right, so period is the time for one complete wave. So if 2 waves take 360, then what will be the value over here? So you can see that it's going to be 180, right? So actually, there's an easy way to always calculate the period correctly. You always take 360. If they are working in radians, then you use 2 pi. You just divide by the number over here. So if the number over here is 2, right? You just divide by 2, you will get the period ready. Okay, so a period will be 180. Okay, then how about gx? So gx, although you see a 2 here, but it's an x over 2, so actually it's a half x. So the number in front, it will be half x. So if half x, it means that from 0 to 360, you only see half a wave. So if from 0 to 360, right, you only see half a wave, half a cosine wave, right? Then what is the full, if I want to see one full wave, how much will it be? If let's say here is 0 and over here is 360, right? So if I want to see one full wave, then I'll need to continue here, right? Okay, so this should you should be able to work this out as 720, okay, in order to see one full wave. That means for the second graph gx, the period will be 720. But anyway, we can still use the method we used above. 360 divided by the number in front of x, which is half, right? So period will now be 360 divided by half, so it will give you 720, right? So 720. Okay, so this is the way to calculate the period. Okay, then in part 5, they actually want us to sketch, okay, the graph of y equals to fx and y equals to gx. Okay, so usually the way I sketch a graph is I set up the maximum and minimum points first, and then after that, from there, I'll set up the values on the x-axis, then we will do the sketch. Okay, so over here, you have fx and gx, so we call it y, and over here x. Okay, so let's sketch fx first. So fx is, if you recall, fx is 2 sine 2x, right? Okay, 2 sine 2x. Okay, so the center point, okay, there's no vertical shift, so the graph will start at the x-axis. All right, then the maximum point will be 2, and the minimum point will be -2. So the blue dotted line indicates the maximum and the minimum values for the graph fx. Okay, so now the period for fx is 180, right? So at 180, you mark out 180 over here. Okay, so since the period is 180, we want to divide 180 into 4 equal intervals. Okay, so 4 equal intervals. So let's do this. Okay, so if you do this, means all these markings will now be 45, 90, 135. Okay, then for 360, so 360 should be maybe somewhere here. Okay, so from 180 to 360, you will get your second cycle. Okay, for the first graph. Okay, so you'll divide it into 4 equal intervals as well. So you get your 225. Then from here you get a 270 and then 315. Right? Okay, so this is a positive sine graph. So a sine graph, the shape is this way, right? So when we start at the rest point, I always call the center point rest point. I'll go to max, then go back to rest, go to minimum, and then go back to rest. Okay, so we'll start here. So start here. Then at the first important mark, it goes to maximum. Okay, then at the 90, it goes to the minimum. And then at 90, it goes back to rest first, right? Okay, then at the next point, 135, we will then go to the minimum, and then 180 will go back to rest. Okay, so let's sketch the first cycle first, right? The graph will look something like this. Okay, so on paper, you can do a better job, okay? Easier to draw on paper. Okay, so you get your first cycle. Right, then you will continue. After you go for rest, you'll go to the maximum again, then go back to rest, then go back to the minimum, and then go back to rest. Okay, so second cycle go up, go here, go here, and then go here. Okay, yeah, I think I want to redo this part. Okay, make it rounder. Okay, so something like this. Okay, so you'll get your fx. Okay, so this red graph will be fx. Right? Okay, so now I'm going to change the color of my pen to draw gx. Okay, so let's change to blue. Okay, so gx is 3 cosine x over 2 minus 1. So if you recall, the period is 720, right? Okay, so which means that from 0 to 360, we only see half a wave. Okay, so if I only see half a wave, then I just need to divide the interval, right? 360 into 2 equal intervals. That means the important marking will now just be here, 180, 0, 180, and then 360 degrees. So we know that for the cosine graph, okay, it goes this way, right? Okay, so it goes from the positive cosine graph, goes from the maximum to the rest and then to the minimum. So this is a half a wave. So I only need to draw this half a part only. Okay, this second half after this dotted line, right? we don't need. Okay, so we don't need this part. We only need this part. Okay, so as usual, the red lines indicate the maximum, minimum values and the vertical shift of the graph GX. So I'll mark it out with blue. So the vertical shift is -1. Okay, the least value -1, you -3, you will get -4. The greatest value -1 +3, so it's the same, it's the 2 also. Okay, is this 2 also? Okay. Okay, so the maximum will be here for the second graph. This is the rest point, okay, the center point, and this is the minimum point. Okay, so for positive cosine graph, we start at maximum for 0. And remember now, 0 to 360, we only divide into 2 equal intervals because the period is 720. That means from 0 to 720, by right, I'm supposed to divide into 4 equal parts. But now I'm only drawing until 360, so I divide into 2 equal parts. Okay, then the next part, it goes to rest, and then at 360, it will go to the minimum. Okay, so only 3 markings only. Okay, and then this is how the graph will look like. So this graph is a bit hard to draw. Okay, so go here. Then from here, starts to curve down. Okay, so something like this. Okay. Okay, this part could be a bit smoother. Let me try to draw. Let me try again now. It's a bit hard to draw this thing. Okay, so something like this. Okay. Okay, so this will be the cosine graph. Okay, let me try to draw this one again. Oh no. Okay, can. Okay, so something like this. All right. Okay, so over here you have the two graphs. The red one is fx, the blue one is gx. Right. Okay, so the next part, they want us to state the number of solutions of the equation 2 sine 2x plus 1 equals to 3 cosine x over 2. Okay, so if you look at this equation, it looks very familiar, right? Okay, it looks very familiar because the two graph, the trigo function is of a similar type. Okay, so if you realize that if you just shift the 1 to the other side, then you will get 3 cosine x over 2 minus 1. Right now. Okay, then this one, you see, this one will be actually gx, and this one will be fx. So you can see that basically this equation is fx equal to gx, which means that the number of solutions is actually a number of intersection points between fx and gx. So you can see from here quite clearly that 3 intersection points, right? So one here, and then another one over here. Right, so this means that the number of solutions will be equals to 3. Okay, number of solutions will be equals to 3. Right, so this is how you do the question like this. So this one a bit difficult, this part lah. Okay, x over 2. So just need to remember, if the period is longer, then you will have lesser wave. So if the period is 720, then from 0 to 360, I should only see half a cosine wave. Okay, so half a cosine wave. So instead of dividing 0 to 360 into 4 parts, okay, you just divide it into 2 parts. Okay, because now the period has been half.